everyone, and welcome to another episode of Your Higher Self. I'm Ocean, a clinical hypnotherapist who has the business guys teaching, and today I am with Amanda Louisa, and that's her business name, and she's a business coach with such a cool twist. So, hello, Amanda, and thank you for coming here today. And tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks for having me, Ocean. I have two hats. So I'm a recovering lawyer and I'm an associate director at a multinational by day. And at all other times, I really am passionate about empowering women and helping women to regulate their nervous system so that we can go out into the world and really create a life that lights us up without the burnout. So I kind of got onto this journey because I had two burnouts, one when I was 28 and then the other when I was 34 and COVID had hit. And learning the importance of working with our nervous system as we try to kind of unravel the conditioning that we've been taught living in a patriarchal society has been so vital in just changing my set point and the ability, like the way I show up in the world. And I really want to help and teach other women to do that so that they can live the most full life that they can imagine, without, feeling guilty or burning out every 5 days and 5 years, like 5 months, which seems to be a cycle that happens a lot, especially like me working in the corporate sector. I see so many of my staff and other colleagues, especially women, just going above and beyond and not getting the recognition and not getting the pay. And yeah, it's a systemic issue that I think it needs to start with each of us to take a stand and set boundaries and shift the way we show up.
I absolutely love that. And exactly everything that you said, I think it's also a very stereotype of hustle. And we have this stereotype of like, if we hustle, if we have a business, if we're successful, we don't have a social life, we don't have me time, we don't have that self-care. That's going to be a topic in just a second. I want to know why you started this business exactly. Like, where did it all stem from?
So I started this business because I was in Edinburgh in 2017 and I had moved there with the intention of never ever coming back to Perth other than on holiday. I loved living there, and when 2020 happened, it just so happened that I was moving from one job to another and I lost my working visa. So when I lost my working visa, that was when COVID was kind of, going up in arms. Everybody was shutting down. I couldn't get back into Australia because all the flights had been stopped, and I couldn't, I wasn't allowed to stay in the UK anymore because I'd lost my right to live and work there. So I was stuck in the UK in this kind of limbo state, not able to get out, not able to come in. And I was also not able to earn any money. So I was living off my savings. Thankfully, I had some at the time. And being in confinement, not having any support system with me, I was living alone in my house, really brought up a lot of things. And I went into a really dark place. And I ended up going to therapy, and I was diagnosed with CPTSD. So that's complex trauma, or complex trauma. And then that really brought me on this journey of learning about my nervous system and how to rewire my nervous system so that I could start showing up a lot differently. And the work that I've done with my nervous system over the last 3 years has been absolutely revolutionary. The way I show up, the way things change around me, the way I attract different opportunities is completely, completely different. The very ability to respond differently to situations, my ability to recover from situations quickly. So I don't go into those big meltdowns that I used to, or if I do something a little bit silly, I don't beat myself up for weeks and weeks and weeks. I don't replay that in my head because I've created such a safety in my nervous system, such a way to nurture myself and really show up for myself and validate my own feelings and my own emotions without looking for that external validation. That has just changed my relationships. It's changed my it's changed everything. And that's what I really wanted to help other women learn and do, because it's a part that we don't really talk about in the self-development field. We don't really talk about nervous system regulation and how important it is to really tune into what our body is telling us. We're taught to suppress everything. We're taught to cover up the symptoms with a Band-Aid. So you got a headache, you take a pill, but your headache is actually trying to tell you something. It's communicating with you. Your body's always communicating with you. And that empowerment piece of reconnecting with our body is just incredible.
Wow, I love that. And honestly, we can see that you did so much work because the energy that you came here with was so powerful. It made like me smile already from the moment you said hi. I was like, wow, your presence is so strong. And so let's talk a little bit about what exactly the nervous system is and also how to help regulate it. Because a lot of people I find that in the society, we don't actually talk about the nervous system and how important it is to regulate it. So I feel like a lot of people don't know where to even start. So, what is the nervous system and how would you say to start healing and balancing it out?
Yeah. So your nervous system is the central command center of your entire body. It regulates how you like your breathing. It regulates the hormones that are being released in your body. It regulates your heartbeat, and it also is constantly scanning your environment for threats and for safety. So it's always looking around without you even noticing to identify what's going on around you. So it's there to keep you safe. And there's 4 types of what I call overwhelm that you can take your system into, which is fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. So the way you kind of start tapping into where you are is noticing how you're reacting in certain situations. So for example, if you're in fight mode, you might be really snappy with people. You could be quite aggressive. You could be feeling really under attack and in this mode of, a defensiveness as well. That can be a real sign that you're in fight mode. And then when you go into flight, you could be super busy all the time. You're the type of person who can't sit still, who always has to be doing something. You can never let dishes lie on the side because it's you don't feel safe. So you constantly feel like you have to move. They're the people who really feel like they can't rest. Rest feels really overwhelming for you. So the idea of meditating, if you're in flight, it just doesn't work because all you end up doing is aggravating your own system, thinking, I can't sit still, this doesn't work for me, but it's because you're in flight mode. Freeze is that sense of dissociation. So you'd recognize it because you might feel really numb in your body. You don't really feel anything. You could be flowing into some sort of depression, feeling like you can't really get motivated. You can go into procrastination when you're in freeze because everything is overwhelming and you don't know where to start. That's where you can go and you kind of start dissociating by scrolling on your Instagram for hours, and suddenly 2 hours is gone and you don't know what you've been doing. You binge watch TV, or you drink more than is healthy, or you use food or sex or shopping as a crutch to kind of numb yourself out from experiencing the reality that you're in because it's too overwhelming. Fawn is our people pleasing mode. So because as human beings, it's so important and it's integral for our survival to belong and to feel connected, we can go into people pleasing to feel that connection, to feel validated and to feel safe. So we over ingratiate ourselves with others. We, put others' needs before our own. We feel too scared to say no to something, even if we know it's going to drain us. So that's when we go into people pleasing mode. A healthy nervous system isn't a nervous system that is always in a ventral state. It's not a nervous system that's always calm. A healthy nervous system should be going into fight, flight, freeze, and fawn, and it should be able to move through those emotions. But the healthiness of it is being able to come back into center. So it should be elastic. It should be able to flow into a fight mode and then bring yourself back into center. It should be able to go into freeze and then come back into center. So The way we do that is I really work with somatic experiencing therapies and techniques. So, really bringing it back into the body and bringing your awareness back in. And the way we do that is through our breath, through our sight, and through sense and touch. So there's a few different techniques that you can use depending on where you're at and how you're feeling. One that I really like to say, because it's so easy and you can use it anywhere, is the 4 square breath. So breathe in for 4, hold for 4, release for 4, and then like hold for 4. So that's a really easy one you could use at your work desk. If you're triggered in a meeting and you want to like snap at somebody, bring yourself back into center. Bring your awareness back into your body as you're sitting in a chair, and really just trying to identify 5 things that you can see around you, and then what you can feel, and then what you can smell, and then what you can taste. Those are just really easy ways to bring yourself back from this kind of feeling of overwhelm back into center. So those are just 2 kind of techniques, or 3 techniques that are quite easy to just pull up anytime. But there's so many other modes to bring yourself into regulation.
Yeah, I love that you said breathing, because I used to be really bad at meditation, and I realized that a lot of people with ADHD, they struggle also with doing meditation, and they say it doesn't work for them because they can't sit still. But I find that doing breath work before it really, really helps, because it puts me in a state of calmness that then I can sit still and have meditation. And now I'm really good at meditation.
Yeah.
To the point that I can just easily switch off my brain and meditate for a long time. But yeah, I really like the point of the breathing, because I think that's the tip on how to learn how to really meditate. Otherwise, do you have any more tips on how to learn how to meditate for anybody that can't sit still?
Yes, absolutely. So meditation doesn't necessarily always mean having to sit still. You can do walking meditations and movement meditations. So bring your presence and awareness into, your feet as they touch the ground, and really sensing the muscles as they're moving, and bringing real slow movement into how you're walking and moving through a certain space. We usually recommend being out in nature if you can, because then there's your your peripheral vision is activated as well, and that helps bring you back to center too. So when you're in fight and flight, you really tend to focus in narrowly on one thing, and because so much of our day is really focused on a screen, we don't use our peripheral side, and that does really help us regulate our nervous system as well. So doing a lot of those exercises can help you come back into center, which is why they recommend going out for a walk, because your peripheral is engaged. So if you do struggle with meditation, you can do walking meditation, so that at least you're moving and then you're bringing yourself back into your breath. There's other somatic movements that you can do as well. So I do one using the Alexander technique. So that's when you lie flat on your back with your feet on the floor. So your knees are kind of up in the air. And then just slowly bringing movement into your shoulder. As you like breathe out, you'll bring your shoulder forward, and then as you breathe in, you can just bring your shoulder back really, really slowly. And that's another way to meditate, because meditation isn't about clearing your mind so that there's no thoughts, because there will never be a time when there's no thoughts in your head. It's about becoming an observer and just bringing your focus back onto your breath, or something that can just anchor you into the moment, so you're not following that like thought and that thread down a rabbit hole into like a cycle of anxiety about something that's happened or that will happen.
Yeah, another thing I love about meditation is just knowing that thoughts can come in, but that you choose whether or not to keep them in or move on from them. So I think it helps you also create your life, because if you know that you can create, like, choose what thoughts come in and what thoughts go, you
Yeah,
can create anything in your life. And another
absolutely.
thing I love about meditation is that it sets an intention. So I can have like wake up so moody because I'm like, oh, I'm tired, like this and that. And then you meditate and you set your intention, and it changes everything. My personality after a meditation, I'm like, I love everyone.
I
Oh,
love that.
yeah. So now I'm wondering, how do you bring this within business? Because you're a business coach and you bring so much holistic health into it. And I've never seen a business coach do that before. So, how do you bring it into business?
So it's really about shifting how you're showing up in the world, and that shifts the things that you're more aware of. So as you change your focus and your nervous system regulation and your ability to ground into a space, and what you end up noticing around you, the opportunities that are coming to you start shifting, because you're not operating out of a sense of not enoughness. You're undoing that good girl conditioning. You're shifting, I guess, the primary thoughts and patterns that you've been operating out of for so long. So then the things that come to you end up shifting. So, for example, to give you one from my own personal life, I was working in a corporate role before the role that I'm in now. And I wanted to go part-time because for me, I'm growing this business so that I can work in it full time. I love this business. I love what I do. And I know it's going to be so impactful for so many people. And so my goal was to go part-time. That way I can have at least one day on the week to focus on the business and not just do it on the weekends and after hours. So I'd asked my manager at that place whether that was possible. Initially, she said yes, and then she turned around and she said, no, you can't do it. And that really pissed me off
Fair
because
enough.
they were all about, they were all about flexi work. And then when it came down to it, they weren't actually in integrity with what they were saying their policies were.
Mm.
And so I put it out there to the universe. I really want to attract a job that is flexible, that allows me to work the hours that I want to work, and that allows me a lot of space to focus on growing the business in the way that I really want to grow it. And within a couple of weeks, I was approached by somebody from the company that I work with, a recruiter, and she's like, "Oh, we've seen you on LinkedIn. Really love your energy." Well, she didn't say energy. We really love your profile. Can we have a chat? Had a chat, and within a month, I started a new role as an associate director at a large multinational. And they brought me in to start running a team, or set up a team, because we don't have a team in WA, in sustainability. So in this role, I have so much more space and flexibility to work the hours that I need to work, to have that ability to do my corporate job and do my business. I've got one day a week where I can literally just focus on my business the way I wanted to, and I'm earning 30K more than I was in my last job. So you can really attract incredible things once you start working with your nervous system. And I say that because even 18 months ago, coming into this job, I would have felt not enough. I would have felt like, who am I to be doing this role? This is way above my ability. I would have had all these stories running through my head about why I couldn't do it. And I would have self-sabotaged myself out of that role. Because as soon as I stepped into the role, there is that stretch that happens, that real feeling of, oh crap. It's huge. Suddenly I'm in a very senior position at an executive level, and I hadn't done that before. And obviously all those stories that are, in your system from childhood come to the surface. And then because I've done so much of the regulating of my nervous system and, really showing up for myself, I was able to hold space with all those uncomfortable feelings and reintegrate them in, so that it didn't feel like I was having this war with myself. It's okay to feel a stretch and to feel nervous and to feel when you step into a new, and that's a sign that you're growing and it's safe for you to grow. So when your nervous system feels safe, those opportunities start feeling safer. So
Yes.
yeah.
No, that's definitely true. I always say that you manifest everything into your life, and you have to create all your opportunities. The moment that you change your mindset and the moment you start working with the universe, or whatever you want to call it, energies, we all have different beliefs in what we call it. But if we start working with that, everything starts working in our favor. We start getting all these opportunities, everything that we dream of, it comes to life. Like,
Absolutely.
your dreams can come to life no matter where you come from and no matter what hurdle is in the way.
Yes, oh, 100%. And being able to feel safe in receiving that, I think that's what the key is, because I think we have these big dreams and visions, but if we've never had unconditional love, a relationship with a person who really shows up for us can feel really unsafe to our nervous system because it's not familiar. So that's just like, really learning to understand when your nervous system is triggered by something that's new because it's different and it's better and it's aligned, because those feelings come up when we start really earning money from our business. It can feel like, oh gosh, okay, like things are going to change here, and that can feel really triggering to our nervous system, right? It can bring up a lot of past conditioning and stories that we might have around wealth and money and all of that. Same thing for relationships, same thing for kind of any area of your life. It's creating that safety in your nervous system to hold the new, because you can only receive and hold as much as your nervous system feels safe to receive.
Yes, that's so true, because as much as healing can seem like amazing, to be happy, to be loved, all of that seems amazing. But for somebody who never had that, that's uncomfortable. Having somebody that loves you is so uncomfortable when you don't know what love is and how it feels. So, yeah,
Oh,
exactly. Learning how to accept that and be like, you know what? I deserve that.
yeah.
I need that in my life. I deserve it. Like, I've created this. I deserve it so much. I feel like so often we don't feel like we deserve.
Yes. Oh, that is absolutely true. I don't, it's conditioned, I think. We're
Mm.
conditioned from a very young age to feel like we need to earn everything. We need to earn our parents' attention. We need to earn our parents' love. We need to earn, good grades, and that's when we get rewarded. So we're constantly told that we need to earn in order to be worthy. But we're inherently worthy because we exist, and that's a new way of thinking of things.
Yeah. And on that topic of feeling that, we have to earn and also conditioning, I want to talk a bit about how the hustle and how we're told that we can't have a calm state of mind and a calm life and a social life, or just be have our own time when we
Mhm.
have a business or when we're having a good career. It doesn't have to be a business. You were a lawyer. So talking a bit about that, how you managed to break that one down, that stereotype down for your business.
It's incredible, isn't it? Like, we live within a patriarchy. And if you think about the current corporate system, or like the work system in general, whether you run a business or whether you are working for somebody else in a corporate setting or at a school, or the rate of burnout that is happening at the moment is such a clear evidence that there's a systemic issue with the way we treat human beings. We as humans are cyclical. We are connected to nature, and nature in itself is cyclical. Women, especially, or people who identify as femme or people who bleed, are especially cyclical because we do have hormones. We have hormones that go up and down. We have estrogen and testosterone and progesterone, and they all come into play at different times within our cycle. And if you're not bleeding anymore, you're still affected by our moon cycles that are happening. So rest is a vital part of productivity. And we are taught that it's not safe to rest. If we're not continuously striving for the next thing, we're gonna fall behind. We're gonna fall behind what? What is this idea of success? It's the idea of success that has been created by a patriarchy. This current work week was created at a time when women were forced to stay at home. We didn't have the opportunity to go into work. So yes, you could work 40 hours a week because somebody was at home cleaning and cooking and taking care of the kids. And now they kind of have this expectation that we as women go into this workforce expecting to, work as if we don't have children, and then like raise children as if we don't have to work full time. Um, and that's sending us into burnout. And I think more and more women, with the rate of people leaving the corporate sector or women leaving the corporate sector, is really showing us that we've had enough. It's enough. And the way I've broken that cycle is I've created real boundaries in my workplace. I follow my own like menstrual cycle really closely, so I know what to schedule at certain times. I think our periods can be used for a lot of productivity, if we know how to use it. So, usually when I'm in my like luteal phase, or the phase going into my menstruation, that's when I do a lot of work that needs reviewing, that needs to like look at the detail, because that's when your hormones are really programmed to look at the nitty gritty. In my ovulation stage, that's when I try and set up a lot of things where I'm going to be publicly facing. I do a lot more of my client stakeholder interviews during that period of time. I try and set a lot of meetings in that period because I've got more energy and I can show up more. And I've got the benefit in my work and in my business to to work from home on the days when I am menstruating, because it just feels better for me to be close to home, to be able to use a heat bag, to have something in place. And if we don't have that opportunity to work from home, if we're a teacher or a nurse and we have to be out there, then there's little things that you can bring into your space to help you feel really nurtured during that time, because it's a time when, for Indigenous cultures, a lot of Indigenous cultures really allow women to go in, because during that period when we're menstruating, it's a time when we are more connected to spirit, and we can really channel some beautiful divine energies and information and messages. And Indigenous cultures really respected that and understood women's connection to the divine in that state, and it was celebrated. Whereas in the Western world, we're kind of pushed to go freaking skydive when we're menstruating, and like, all those tampon ads would show us that you have to be out and like cycling and boxing and doing all that stuff, when no, that's the time when you're supposed to go in. It's literally nature's way of saying pause, rest, recalibrate, and then come out fresh. Like even nature goes into winter right before spring. So you need the fallow season to go into a new season of brightness and liveliness.
Wow, I've actually never thought about looking at menstrual cycle with business. And so I have a few questions on that actually. One being, if a woman no longer has periods, or somebody that identifies as a woman no longer has periods, because, endometriosis, because of these kind of illnesses, a lot of people can't have periods anymore, because they're on hormones, all kinds of different health issues. What would you recommend for people ongoing though that? How to check their cycle and how to work with their hormones?
I would highly recommend reading the book Code Red. That really changed my relationship to my period. For 7 years, I was on the pill, and I didn't have a period for 7 years. I didn't want to have a period. It was slowing me down. And that was before I'd started doing the nervous system regulation work. And I was still living very much out of my trauma, because I have CPTSD. And it was those highs and lows that come with a menstrual cycle. Sometimes your emotions are a little bit more raw closer to your period. That book really transformed my relationship with my body and my womb space. So if you're somebody who identifies as a woman, or somebody who has trouble with your menstrual cycle, and as a person who bleeds, you don't necessarily have to, if you're not bleeding at this particular point in time, you can tune into the moon cycle and the moon phases, because we have usually around a 28-day cycle as a standard for women. And it really does have to do with the lunar energies and the light, and how that helps us ovulate at certain times and menstruate at certain times. So you can just follow the moon cycle, and in that way you would have like the new moon would be your menstrual phase, so you would go into rest at the new moon, and then as you're coming out at of the new moon into like the first kind of quarter to before full, you would use that as your follicular phase. So you'd start doing a little bit more stuff. You're really creative in this space, and you could use the full moon as your ovulatory phase. So that would be when you're really out and about and you're doing your networking and your engagement. And then as you move into like the waning moon phase, you'd go into your follicular. So you start like slowing down, becoming more detail oriented, reviewing things, looking back on things. And then again, as you flow into the new moon phase, you'll start revising and reviewing, and then just really tuning in and resting to tap into what clarity is coming through, what messages are coming through, what can you do differently as you go into the next phase of your cycle. So you can definitely use, if you're not bleeding, the moon as a way to just check in with yourself.
I was actually that answered my next question. I was gonna ask how you really check your cycle, whether you use some apps. Some people use apps, but moon cycles.
Moon. I use Clue as an app. It's free, and you can just track your cycle in that, which is really easy. And I have a lunar and seasonal diary. I don't know if you've heard of Stacey DeMarco.
Don't think so, no.
So she identifies as a witch, and she's very much into the cyclical nature of the earth, and really tapping into the wheel of the year, and following that. And so she's kind of set out this really great diary with all the moon phases and the astrological happenings, and then like some rituals that you can do at each phase. And because I do follow the wheel of the year in my own like rituals and practices, I kind of tune in with that as I move through my business cycle, as well as my corporate cycle. So I'm just really in tune with what's happening with Earth and Mother Earth, so that I can tune into that and really embody each phase as I move through my business and my cycles.
Oh my God, I need to get that diary.
It's so good. I love it.
Oh my God, I'm going to be searching up that diary ASAP. It sounds so good. But now let's go into the good girl conditioning that you have in your business. What exactly is the good girl conditioning?
It's the patriarchy. So from the time we're raised, we're always told what a good girl is, right? So it's a girl who's quiet, who does what she's told. You need to be a good girl. And we're so conditioned to seek that external validation from the people around us, and to be seen as being the good girl. And we take that not only into our relationships, trying to please our partner and be what they need, same with our children, but also into our business and into our work. We're always trying to please people, and we have this guilt and this shame if we can't show up for others in a way that they expect. And my first burnout happened when I was in a really toxic relationship with a guy, and I was trying to be everything that I could be that he needed, and I was also trying to please my family at the same time. And I couldn't please them both because they wanted two different things. So here I was, like, pulling myself apart, trying to be everything for everyone. And I'm the one who burned out. I'm the one who ended up, in a really dark, bad place, because I was putting everybody else's needs before my own. And unraveling the good girl conditioning is saying F you to the patriarchy and reclaiming our worth, our sense of sovereignty as women, and our power, because we are very different from the masculine energy, and we need to celebrate that. So being empathetic, being compassionate, being in tune with our intuition and with the mystical and the divine is sacred work. And it's not something to be called, I find woo a very derogatory term. It's spiritual because it's connected to, other cultures, Eastern cultures and Indigenous cultures really celebrate the feminine in that energy space. And those are things that are really integral to their belief system. It's just not part of the Western belief system as yet, or it's starting to infuse into our culture now. So yeah, that's kind of the good girl conditioning.
Wow. And how do you bring in that into your business?
So we really work at unraveling. I kind of work with my clients in three different phases. One is introspection, so really tuning in to what your desires are. And because we live in a society that, we're kind of told what we need to do to be successful, we are always pursuing something, and we don't really take the time to check in and say, okay, what is it that I want? What does success look like for me? What does it feel like in my body when I think of living this life with these kind of goals? So introspection is really about tuning in and reconnecting with yourself as a human being, and your desires and where you are. And then we go into the unraveling phase. So this is really connecting with your limiting beliefs. What are you afraid will happen if you let go of pleasing other people, or of living for others, or living the life that you want? What are you afraid is going to happen? And let's start unraveling that and rewiring your nervous system so that it can hold the vision of what you're wanting to create. And then we go to embodiment. So how do we start embodying this energy? And I really like working with like the 7 feminine archetypes to really tap into how you can start using these archetypal stories to create the blueprint of what you want your life to look at, so you can step into that more fully, because we don't have very many, well, we never used to. We do now a lot more examples of feminine stories where the woman is really in power. Like a lot of our movies have a lot of male dialogue, and there's that whole study that shows women in movies are usually speaking about the men in their lives, or have very like little dialogue in terms of context. That's starting to shift, but it's
But I
still,
find in movies as well, like that the woman, if they are successful, they're portrayed as a bitch, as
yes.
somebody that's has no time for anyone, that's not in her nurturer role, and her feminine energy. So that's also one that I've noticed in movies when the woman is a successful woman.
That is so true. Yes, absolutely. Isn't it funny how we portray women in power as being, the ice queen?
Yeah,
Um,
that's a better term to use it. But I saw somewhere, I think that being said, where it was like the B word doesn't mean that that you're a successful woman. It doesn't have to mean that.
Yeah. There was this great post that I saw, and I can't remember where I saw it, but they were basically showing like a little girl and a little boy, and he was being assertive and she was being bossy. And then like the same behavior in a male to a female is interpreted really differently. And that comes out into the corporate sphere as well. So there's a lot of research and studies that demonstrate that a woman who speaks in an impassioned way in a corporate setting, in a boardroom, can be seen as being aggressive. And the result from the other board members is that they're more reticent about following her opinion or taking on what she said, because they think she's being aggressive. A male delivering that in the exact same way has a completely different results. Like he's more likely to be seen as being passionate and to be a good leader. So these are like inherent conditionings that we have to deal with every day as women. And then you add race into it, and then you've got a whole other level of microaggressions that you have to deal with, right? So yeah, it's such a systemic result of living within a patriarchal colonial paradigm, and we're starting to shift that. And the more women that come into their own power and feel comfortable embodying that and really grounded in that space, the more success you have. Because I've gone into a predominantly male, so I work in an engineering consultancy firm. Most, like, I'm usually one of the only women in the room, and probably the only person of color in the room. And I have great relationship with my leadership team. I have great relationships with others because I feel really comfortable in my power. I don't feel like I'm there to get anything. I am just so anchored into my space. And the person with the most regulated nervous system in the room is the person with the most power. So that's what I'm here to teach you, is the more regulated you are, the more power you have and the more influence you have to change the way things are happening.
Wow, what a powerful note to end on. Oh, I love that quote so much. So, if somebody wants to work with you, Amanda, how do they get in contact with you? How do they start a program with you?
Slide into my DMs. I am on Instagram, so you can find me at the Amanda Louisa. And yeah, I love to chat. So just jump into my DMs, let me know that you listen to this podcast, and yeah, I'd love to chat and see how I can help you.
Well, I love that so much. Thank you so much for coming on this podcast and educating us so much. I feel like we had so much information that I don't want to overload anyone with information. We learned so much. So thank you so much. And thank you also for empowering women around the globe. This is not just Australia, this is not just Perth, it's a globe once you have an online business. So thank you for doing that. We need more women like you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's been such a fun chat.
You're welcome. All right, see you guys, and I will see you in the next one.